You don't feel underpaid. That's the strange part. You look at your salary and think, I should be doing fine. On paper, everything checks out. The number looks solid. Your parents nod approvingly. Your friends say, nice, you're doing well. And yet, your savings barely move. Your credit card never really resets to zero, and every month feels a little tighter than the last. Not a crisis, just a quiet pressure that never goes away. That feeling matters, because if you're making what should be good money, but still feel stuck, you're not bad with money. Something else is happening, and it's hidden so well that almost nobody talks about it. Before we go any further, this is Donki. If you want calm, honest explanations about money, work, and why things feel harder than they should, you're in the right place. Now let me ask you something simple. When someone says, I make $40 an hour, what does that actually mean? Most people don't hesitate. They picture a clock. They picture a paycheck. They picture control. $40 for every hour you give. Clean, fair, logical. But what if that number is quietly misleading you? Not because your employer is cheating, not because the math is wrong, but because the equation itself is incomplete. Here's something interesting. Companies obsess over margins. They don't just ask, how much did we make? They ask, what did it cost us to make it? They track expenses relentlessly. Rent, labor, utilities, waste, because revenue without costs is meaningless. But when it comes to your own labor, you probably don't do that. You look at income. You stop there. And that's where the problem begins. Let's zoom out. Imagine two people. Person A makes $40 an hour. Person B makes $18. If the story ends there, person A is clearly winning. But let's keep going. Person A wakes up early, not because they want to, but because traffic decides their schedule. They own a car mostly because their job requires one. They buy clothes they wouldn't wear otherwise. They eat food they didn't plan to eat. They pay for convenience because exhaustion makes planning feel impossible. Person B walks to work, wears a uniform they didn't buy, clocks out and actually leaves work behind. Same city, same economy. Who's really earning more per hour of life? That question doesn't have an obvious answer, and that should bother you, because we're taught that income alone tells the story. But income is only one side of the ledger. Here's the part nobody explains. A job doesn't just pay you money, it also quietly charges you. It charges you time, energy, attention, decision-making capacity. But those costs don't show up on your paycheck, so you never subtract them. Let me describe a day that might feel familiar. You wake up earlier than you'd like, not because you enjoy mornings, but because being late is expensive. You rush, you compromise, you leave the house already slightly tense. During the day, money leaks out in small, forgettable amounts. Coffee you didn't plan to buy, lunch you didn't bring, something quick because today is crazy. By the time you're home, your brain is done. Cooking feels like work, thinking feels like work, so you pay to make the evening easier. You tell yourself you earned it, and maybe you did, but earned it with what? Because here's the unsettling thought. What if your job is creating expenses that wouldn't exist without it? Not luxuries, not bad habits, structural costs, costs that only exist because you're employed the way you are. Transportation, appearance, convenience, recovery. You don't spend this money because you're careless. You spend it because your job quietly consumes more of your day than you're being paid for. That idea should make you uncomfortable, because if it's true, then the hourly wage you're proud of isn't your real hourly wage. And we haven't even talked about taxes yet. Most people stop their math at after tax. They say, well, yeah, the government takes a chunk, and then they mentally move on. But taxes are the easy part. They're visible, predictable, accepted. The dangerous costs are the ones you normalize, the ones that feel like just life. Ask yourself this: if you didn't have this job, would you still need the same car, the same clothes, the same daily spending patterns? Or are those things the price of access? That question reframes everything, because suddenly you're not just selling hours, you're running a business. And that business has expenses, high ones, but unlike a real business, you've never audited them. You've never asked, is this even profitable? You've never divided what you actually keep by the total amount of life you give up to get it. And there's a reason for that, because once you do, the number changes, dramatically, and once you see that number, you can't unsee it. It changes how you look at prices, at promotions, at good jobs. It even changes how you think about free time. But we're not there yet. Right now, Sit with the discomfort, with the possibility that you're working harder than you think, earning less than you believe, and paying hidden costs you've never named. Not because you failed, but because nobody taught you to ask the right question. In the next part, we're going to rebuild the equation from scratch, not to depress you, not to tell you to quit your job, but to expose the gap between what you think you earn and what you actually keep. And once that gap becomes visible, the entire system starts to look very different. Let's finally run the numbers. Not the comforting numbers, not the ones on your offer letter, the real ones. Imagine someone earning $40 an hour. That sounds like success. On paper, that's about $83,000 a year. Respectable, stable, good money. But before that money even reaches their account, something happens. Taxes, federal, state, payroll, quiet, automatic, unavoidable. That $40 instantly shrinks. Not a little, a lot. Now you're closer to $31 an hour. That's the number most people accept as reality. But that's still not your real wage, because now come the costs that only exist because you work this job. Transportation, gas, maintenance, insurance, parking, wear and tear. Not because you love driving, because your job requires you to show up somewhere specific at a specific time. That car isn't really a personal luxury. It's a work tool. Then there's appearance, clothes you wouldn't wear otherwise, shoes that hurt but look professional, haircuts more often than you'd choose, dry cleaning because you don't have the energy to deal with laundry at night. Again, not optional. These are the costs of being taken seriously. Then comes the quiet killer. Convenience, food you buy because you're not home, coffee because you're tired, meal kits because grocery shopping feels impossible, delivery because cooking feels like another job. None of this feels dramatic. It just feels normal, but it adds up. And then there's the category nobody wants to name. The money you spend to recover from work, drinks on Friday to unwind, streaming subscriptions to numb out, vacations you need just to tolerate the year, impulse purchases because something has to feel good. This isn't irresponsibility. This is compensation. It's how people survive long weeks. Add all of this together: taxes, transportation, appearance, convenience, recovery. Suddenly that $83,000 isn't what you keep, it's what passes through you. What's left is much smaller, but we're still not done, because now we have to talk about time. This is where the illusion really breaks. HR says you work 40 hours a week. That's technically true, but only if you pretend your life exists in neat boxes. You don't just work when you're at your desk, your job starts earlier. When your alarm goes off earlier than you'd choose. When you get ready in clothes you wouldn't wear. When you commute, that time belongs to the job. Even if you're not being paid for it, then there's lunch. Unpaid, but not free. You can't go home. You can't nap. You can't truly relax. You're captive. Then there's the end of the day. The sitting in the car, the zoning out, the mental fog. That's not leisure. That's recovery. Recovery from work. And then there's the quiet part. The emails you check at night, the Sunday anxiety, the planning, the mental rehearsing. None of this shows up on a timesheet, but it's still time your job takes from you. Add it all together. Getting ready, commuting, captive breaks, recovery time, mental load, that 8-hour day, quietly becomes 12. Over a week, that's 60 hours. Over a year, it's over 3,000 hours. Now we can finally calculate the number nobody wants you to calculate. Take what you actually keep after all work-related costs. Divide it by the total hours your job consumes, not just paid hours, all of them. That's your real hourly wage. And when people do this honestly, that $40 an hour often becomes 16, sometimes 12, sometimes less. Here's the unsettling comparison. A teenager working a fast food job might make $18 an hour. They walk to work, they wear a uniform provided by the company, they leave stress at the door, no unpaid commute anxiety, no email at night, no decompression spending. Hour for hour, they may be earning more than the professional with the degree. That's the aha. Not that all jobs are bad, but that many good jobs are quietly unprofitable. You've been taught to think in revenue, salary, raises, promotions. But businesses don't survive on revenue, they survive on margin. And you are a business. Your life is the operation. Your labor is the product. Your margin is what you keep in money and time. This is why promotions can feel like traps. More money, but more hours, more stress, more spending to cope. You process more cash, but you keep less, your margin shrinks, and then there's the most dangerous cost of all, opportunity cost. Every dollar spent just to tolerate work is a dollar that can't compound. That daily coffee, that weekly takeout, that stress spending. Invested over decades, those aren't small numbers. They're freedom, they're years of life. You're not just buying convenience, you're selling your future time. This is why the system works, because exhaustion prevents math. Tired people don't audit their lives, they survive them. So what's the solution? It's not quitting tomorrow. It's not living in a van. It's changing the metric. Stop asking, how much do I make? Start asking, how efficient is my life? Anything that reduces work-related costs increases your real wage. Remote work buys back hours. Shorter commutes buy back energy. Cooking buys back money. Caring less about appearances buys back margin. Even small changes matter. Because every dollar you stop spending to work is a dollar you get to keep. Every hour you reclaim is an hour you actually own. Here's the shift that changes everything. When you know your real hourly wage, prices feel different. That purchase isn't $50, it's 3 hours of your life. That upgrade isn't nice, it's weeks of mornings. And suddenly, consumption slows down, not because you're depriving yourself, but because you're respecting your time. The wealthy understand this. They buy time. Everyone else sells it, often at a discount. Don't sell yours blindly. Audit your life. Protect your margin. Because freedom doesn't come from earning more. It comes from keeping more of what you already earn. And once you see that clearly, you'll never look at a paycheck the same way again.